Driving Performance. My name is Tom Shea. I'm your host. I'm the co-founder of Agile Media Group, joined by the real estate guy, Ryan Serhant, and the DTC guy, Nick Sharma. Excited to have these two individuals on the pod today. Two people I've looked up to for a very long time, and would love to introduce them real quick. Ryan Serhant is a reality TV star turned real estate mogul. In total, he's sold over $6 billion worth of real estate, making him the #1 broker in New York City. And he's the most followed real estate broker on social media, so be sure to check him out. Nick Sharma, widely known, as I said, as the D2C guy, a Forbes 30 under 30, AdWeek's young and influential, someone that most investors and brands turn to for help. Active CEO of Sharma brands, HOOX 1180, where clients like Feastables, Chamberlain Coffee, Roc Nation, Everlane, all look to. So, welcome to Driving Performance, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, how for the audio-only listeners, how would you describe what is happening right now?
We are in the Pope Mobile.
Yeah, we are in the Pope Mobile.
We're in basically a glass box in the middle of Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, it's pretty New Yorker.
There's
Loving
hot
the vibe.
dogs, bikers, U-Haul trucks.
But we lucked out. It's a nice day.
Yeah.
Beautiful day.
Yeah,
What's
more
funny,
fun.
I mean, in my world, we are parked outside the now in limbo Flatiron building that almost sold the last week, and then the buyer defaulted on his purchase price.
Was that
and
even real?
He just missed his down payment of $19 million, and now the building is like in the judge's hands of trying to figure out what to do, and we're parked right outside.
All right, timely. Nick, Ryan, do you guys know each other?
I probably knew you a long time ago, just through content. The best thing I learned was when you look at a nice place, you got to look at the marble as it goes over an edge. If the marble is, if the waterfall is consistent, that's good marbling. If it's not consistent, it's probably a cheap spot. You want the marbling to go up and down, so it feels taller.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, we met at Uncharted. Shout out to Noah.
Yeah, so that's where we initially met.
Yeah.
It's like an entrepreneur, kind of like VC, angel investor conference.
Yeah.
That do a lot of things in the city. I mean, the greatest part about living in New York is there's a lot of associated marketing events, like even for people. Like every single person on the street, if we stood outside right now and you just said hi to 10 random strangers, one of those people could have a massive effect on your life.
Totally.
That's what I tell every new person who moves here. I'm like, you have the benefit of being surrounded by potential value add here.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, like, that's why I moved to New York. This in our CPG ecosystem, like,
it's all here.
It's insane. I don't know where else you could build these businesses. So, I'm going to give you guys a quick lay of the land. So we're obviously in a truck. So the theme is there's a few stops on this route.
Okay.
The first stop is going to be origin story. So the inflection points, formidable moments that made you guys who you are today.
Sure.
The second stop is going to be specific questions for each of you. And the third stop is going to be sort of intersectionality questions where there's going to be one question posed to both of you so we can get both of your diverse perspectives. And then stop 4 is a segment we call the Hot Box, a tongue-in-cheek riff on the hot seat, which will be a lot of fun. And then stop 5 is the literal end where we'll wrap and send you guys on your way. So Ryan, I want to start with you. You have a really great story of, just the backstory of how you got where you are today is just so different from where that story started. So I'd love for you to just take us back in time, trying to be, things like an actor and all the way to Craigslist ads to really get your start and the scrappiness that got you on $1 million listing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to be as efficient as I possibly can. My biggest thing has always just been saying yes to opportunity. Like, other than drugs and like other illegal things, I say yes to most things. At least I did when I was younger, because you just never know.
Right.
Like, that's where I've met the best people. That's how I'm in this room right now. Like, hey, do you want to come to this Uncharted event? Sure. Like, let's go. Let's see who I meet. See what happens.
Right.
And now we're all sitting in this room, and I think that's the best part about life today, which is why I think it's so hard for people who choose to just work at home. Like, there's only so many people you can meet in your house. Anyway, born in Texas, grew up outside Boston, went to college in upstate New York. Only thing I was good at was theater. I tried to go to law school. I took the LSAT, totally bombed it. It was like, all right. And so came to New York in 2006. To do theater and film TV if I could, and it's a much harder business than what they teach you in college.
Right.
They don't actually teach you the business, they just teach you how to be a tree.
It's all theory versus application.
Correct, right? So there's no application for it, it's just sort of, best of luck, and got onto a soap opera pretty quick, and then got killed off pretty quick.
In a soap opera, just murder?
Yeah, I was Dr. Evan Walsh IV on As the World Turns, and I took a syringe to the chest while trying to hold my grandmother hostage on the roof of
Hate when
hospital.
that happens.
I know, she like wrestled it, and it was a bad day for me. Because that also meant I got fired, and like paycheck's done.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that how they fire you? They just kill you?
Yeah, you just read a script one day. I mean, I'm sure for the people that have been there forever, they talk to you.
Yeah.
But for me, I was so new, and it was like really short-lived, and you know, just read a script one day, and it's like fights this person. Okay, this doesn't look good for me. And then it was Evan Walsh-Forth succumbs to lethal injection. I'm like, do I come back? Like, what happens? Like, nope, you're done.
Turns into a zombie.
But it was
thriller.
cost cutting. You know, it was CBS was really cutting. People weren't watching soap operas the way they used to because they had social media, they had reality TV.
Totally.
Anyway, so ran out of money, and it was get a survival job or go home. And my parents were in Colorado at the time.
Right.
And I didn't want to get a survival job because I knew actors who were like 50 and 60 and 70 years old who still had their survival job from when they were 24.
Right.
And I was like, if I do that, I am screwed. I'll be comfort sucked into it. And so I got my real estate license because a friend said it's the same thing as acting. Memorize information, talk to strangers. That's the same thing, and just rent apartments. And I lived we're parked right now on 23rd and 5th. So my apartment's on 31st and 5th, which is right in Koreatown. Koreatown's 31st, 32nd between 5th and Broadway. And those were all my first deals, and I just became addicted to it early on. I was like, because when you're an actor in New York City, it's really tough, and all you do is deal with rejection, like to your face, because of your face, right? And as a real estate agent, it's like people would reject you, but it wasn't because of my hair or my nose.
Who gave you that advice?
A friend of mine from college who was also a theater major, who didn't have some money saved up from summer jobs and stuff. And so he was doing really well in real estate and had like an apartment with a doorman and had like suits and could afford food and stuff. And I was like, oh, the American dream.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just started renting apartments and just became addicted to it. And one thing after another, I put theater totally to the side. I hand modeled a little bit to pay my bills. And that was good. That paid way better than the soap opera did. Holding phones for AT&T and like, Nespresso capsules and stuff like that. And then I went to an open casting call that was just wide open in early 2010 for Millionaire Listing, the New York version, and 3,000 real estate agents showed up to the Hudson Hotel, and they picked 3 of us.
Wow.
And then I started filming that in 2011, was on the show for 10 years.
In the real estate journey, where were you when you actually went to that casting call?
My first day in the real estate business was the day Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy on September 15th, 2008.
Oof.
And then my first year, I was only doing it to pay my rent. Like if I could make $2,000 a month doing real estate, that gave me the rest of the month to do what I really wanted to do, which was like go do Romeo and Juliet in the park and make short films. And I was doing like regional shows in Vermont and hand modeling still.
Right.
I made like $9,000 in real estate my first year, so I was not good at it. But I got a lot more joy out of the potential of meeting strangers on the street that could potentially be clients than like going and sitting in an audition for 6 hours to then not be chosen, and all it does is cost you money.
Right.
And then, everything was great. I built the #1 selling sales team in New York City history from 2016 till 2019, and at that point I was like, I'm going to go and start my own company.
All right, and so just to recap that performance since launch, closed $160 million in deals 2020, $1.5 billion in deals in 2021, closed $2 billion in 2022. What are you thinking on 2023? What's the market like?
Next question. This market is correcting incredibly hard, but it's what we all anticipated. Like we knew what was going to happen. The real estate market was like a Black Friday sale, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Honestly, nationally, 2021 was the strongest real estate market the United States, and I'm sure the globe, has ever known in history. 2021 was like by far and away the greatest market in terms of velocity, in terms of price points, absorption days, like every stat was just obliterated. 2023 has started and looks to be the worst real estate market the United States has known since 1981. And it's because it's everyone who wanted to buy, they bought already.
Right.
Every seller who wanted to sell, if you didn't sell in the last couple of years,
right,
you don't want to sell now because you can't afford to sell. And your buddy Bob did sell, and he got twice what you're being told you can get now. So that makes you feel bad.
Psychology.
And so everyone, it's like the great American renovation.
Right.
Like everyone's renovating, doing additions, trying to figure out how to make things work.
Yeah.
And you have mass layoffs. Inflation's a real thing, and people are being pinched now. So, it's about being efficient this year.
What about you, Nick? Let's run through the quick hits on Nick Sharma's story.
It's not as cool as Ryan, But
That's pretty cool.
started actually probably I would say it started when I was a kid. I loved I knew that, you know, for example, sitting in history class was not going to contribute to anything that I wanted to do in the future, but I did really love sales. I loved transactions. I loved every Sunday reading the newspaper and looking at Best Buy and Circuit City and Fry's, comparing the deals and see who had the best deals. And you know, eventually that led to, in high school, doing social media with different celebrities, working with them on nothing too crazy. I mean, I barely knew marketing at the time, so it was a lot of, you know, at the time, Facebook and Twitter management, coming up with posts, figuring out how do we jack up engagement, how do we get, you know, likes and followers up. From there, I went to, actually, I did horrible in school. I didn't get into any great colleges and ended up taking an internship out of high school, basically after senior year, at a ad tech company. And the deal was, if this guy could get my flight and had a bed for me, I'd just come work for free. And it was very much like the Gary Vee model, I guess.
Right.
And so went up there, and you know, it was everything from getting this guy salad to fixing his backpack zipper to then sitting in on sales calls and learning how sales works and the psychology of a good sales call and how to get information and context and then play on that. And ended up staying at this ad tech company for just under 2 years. Did a bunch of sales and business development there. So the articles that you read on CNN or wherever, at the bottom, there's that section you may also like. And it's usually, you know, you won't believe what Ryan Serhant looks like 10 years later, and it's a slideshow.
Yeah.
And so I was helping those clickbait guys on Facebook, and that's sort of how I started to learn performance marketing and the psychology of good creative and good content, what makes people click. And I did that for a while basically as a contractor, freelancer. Then joined a company called Hintwater and built their e-commerce business. It's pretty much how I learned e-commerce.
Right.
And then came out to New York and started Sharma Brands. And the idea was, you know, how do we create this red carpet experience for brands where they, you know, a CMO wants to bring a company here. Let's say they want to bring a brand from the UK to the US. They don't want to deal with who to hire and what to do and what process and what tactics to learn. They just want to tell one person, and that person can handle it for them.
Right.
And so we sort of, we became that person for tons of brands, really around when they're launching or if they're, you know, big and scaling. And so that's sort of the story to Sharma Brands. And then from there, similar to Ryan, found other opportunities where, you know, as I was producing content and getting in front of more eyeballs, I became known well for direct-to-consumer and e-commerce. And I saw two other white spaces where we could jump in, do things that are pretty practical and, you know, nothing like revolutionary, but practical and easy hole to fill, basically, and started those companies as well.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so we're gonna get to stop to here, give you guys some questions in an alternate manner. And Ryan, I want to start with you. So I want to talk a bit about marketing and sales. You have a book on it, Sell It Like Serhant. You have a reality TV show where you help people prove their sales, and you seem to be on a mission on how to help people how to sell, or as you say, help them assure. And you know, you do marketing. It goes all the way back to buying ads for Craigslist postings, which I think is a great growth marketing hack. So
it's all we knew how to do.
Right.
Like, that was it. Now it's like, ooh, that was creative. But back then it was like, that's what you did.
So, you mean to tell me that I can integrate my shop with you in less than a minute? You store all my inventory across your 50+ fulfillment centers in the US, Canada, UK, Europe, and Australia, and then fulfill all of my orders globally with over a 99% order accuracy rate?
That's right. We do that for over 7,000 brands today.
And you can do that for all my D2C, B2B, and Amazon orders?
Yep.
And when my next TikTok video goes viral, or during the holiday rush, you can grow with me forever?
Yes, again.
Dang, that's the ship, Bob.
Check out ShipBob at shipbob.com to unlock your fulfillment provider that acts as your personal chief supply chain officer. Where does marketing fit into your company's like flywheel today? How do you think about it as something that enables the rest of the things that you're pursuing?
So we are a content to training to commerce business for real estate. So we have three businesses. One is a production company for real estate. It's actual real estate, it's developers, it's new construction, it's real estate agents, it's everything real estate adjacent that creates all organic content. That organic content drives lead flow for salespeople and people who need salespeople.
Right.
The salespeople come into the funnel either and come into our brokerage if they're qualified
Right.
in the places that we're licensed, or they go into education where we train them on how to sell, how to build their sales careers, webinars. It's a membership business. And from there, we connect those salespeople around the world with people who need salespeople. So buyers, sellers, developers, architects, contractors, designers, you name it.
Yeah.
But to make all of that go round, right, we have a creative agency called Serhant ID Lab, which does all the ideation. So everything that's not in motion, which our studio does, they do. And we're professional marketers.
Right.
By the time this has come out, we'll have announced our first rollout for expansion markets across the United States.
Exciting.
Our marketing is in conjunction, a big press release combined with we staged an emergency press conference, kind of like the NFL, but it's got like all the microphones and
Podium.
everything, and it's like a mix. It's like funny smart. So it's like,
Right.
hey, here's what we're doing, but it's also like, will my daughter who's 4 succeed me in the next 2 years? Is that part of the plan? And like throwing in some humanizing elements to it.
Yeah.
But my whole job is to market, right? Like we are in the business of cutting through the noise, like literally.
Right.
Like we're doing a podcast in a glass box on one of the noisiest avenues ever, and I had to do that for sales. Like
Right.
whether you have $1 million property or you have a $250 million penthouse,
Right.
we're not getting paid or hired because we can turn the lights on, or because if someone says, "Hey, I'll buy it," we are going to say sure. Right? You get hired so that you can go out and fish.
Yeah.
Right? Who's the best at fishing? And that's really marketing. How do you cut through all that noise? How do you drive attention? And how do you make people say, "Hey, I was going to buy that, but I'm going to come and buy this."
You get their
And
attention.
a lot of that is done through YouTube now, especially at lower prices. Like we sell property through YouTube Shorts, TikTok, even LinkedIn now every week.
Where was it and where is it now, and where do you think it's moving?
Well, I only had a Facebook when I got into real estate in 2008. I wasn't even on Twitter. There's no point for me if it was around. I don't even remember. I feel like when I got into real estate, Twitter was still like
Probably
was about
just
to be.
launched.
It was like Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore.
Yeah.
Like that's how you knew about it, right?
Right,
Because they were
right.
tweeting at each other in their own house.
Right.
But it was Facebook. But it was also Facebook was just keeping up with my college friends.
Right.
Right. Our main source of getting business was on Craigslist or just the street or the
Right.
marketing. Like,
Blocking and tackling.
yeah, I wasn't from New York. Like there was no script for how to become a real estate agent in New York if you did not go to New York schools.
Right.
If you're not from New York and in the New York scene, and this is
Yeah.
either your second career, so you're going through like a spouse,
Right.
or you're from these schools, best of luck.
Right.
Most people kind of, like the attrition rate for New York City real estate agents is like 90%.
Yeah.
It's in terms of people who bail. It's just too hard. It's too expensive.
Totally.
So people just bounce out. But the game has totally changed. And I saw that once $1 Million Listing started, there was a lot of crazy people reach out. But then people would see things on TV and then Google and then email through our website, say, "Hey, is that still available?" And typically it wouldn't be because $1 Million Listing would shoot. It would take
Right.
a year to film the season and then it would come out. I was like, what if we had more control over that process, and I could create content and put it out to a mass audience tomorrow,
Right.
and then maybe the same thing would happen. And I'll never forget, like we had a townhouse in Chelsea, and we created a video for it, and it was an impossible to sell townhouse in the high teens, millions,
Yeah.
right? Put it out there, no one wanted to see it, and then this broker reaches out to us, said, "Hey, I'm helping a woman find a townhouse on the east side of Manhattan. Her daughter saw some video, and now the mom wants to come see it." And I was like, "What house?" And he's like, "I don't know, some video on my kid, the thing." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, on
yeah.
YouTube, really?" And the mom came and saw the house. She wouldn't even look at anything on the west side of the city. She only wanted the east side.
Right.
She came and saw it. The house was perfect for her. Her broker was like, "Well, I never sent it to you because you only told me you wanted the east side."
Right, right.
And she
Access
bought
to
it.
information
Yeah,
is
and she
just
bought that
different.
house for $15 million.
Wow.
And so the point of first substantive contact was a YouTube video.
Right.
And at that point, we were like, this is real. No one else is doing it. Let's go hard.
All right, Nick, switching over to you. You have some really high-profile clients. Probably some be using Ryan in short order here. But, you're working with a company like Feastables with Mr. Beast. who's another like content kingpin. There's a lot of people that he could be choosing to work with, and yet he's working with Sharma brands, as are a lot of really influential people. So I still want to talk about the evolution from that origin story to working with some of the behemoths in the industry today.
One is this approach of, we have this thing we call, or that I consider called the Kim K red carpet experience, which is at any point, whoever is putting on the experience has to pretend you're Kim Kardashian's assistant at a red carpet.
Right.
Kim's walking the red carpet. She's got to have no questions. Everything has to be right there. She needs to be prepped before. Everything needs to be smooth during. And so that's the approach that we take when it comes to marketing, whether it's like a piece of creative, a site experience. We try to treat it like a red carpet experience. But even with our clients, we do the same thing. I think the other piece is, like Ryan mentioned, the content. The content gets in front of eyeballs so fast.
I mean, that's how I met you.
Yeah,
the newsletter.
and it's something you can read on your own time. You don't have to, we don't have to get on a call. It's asynchronous, basically.
Right.
And a lot of people, like when we met first, I felt like I had a relationship with Ryan. So the other part is the content, getting content in front of people's eyes, and that's a combination of the newsletter. It's the podcast, limited supply. It's jumping on podcasts like this.
Right.
It's I think content in general is huge. Like, and depending on the type of content, I've noticed it gets in front of different people. Long form content gets me in front of the CMO of Patron, and short form content gets me in front of you, for example.
Right. It's generational.
Yeah,
divides,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think the last part is probably it's not that tactical, but there's this Indian or immigrant mindset that you have but being in a different country, or sort of like having this chip on your shoulder. And I would say the combination of those three is probably why somebody like Mr. Beast or Emma Chamberlain works with Sharma brands. They get well taken care of. They know that we're on their offense. We're right on the front line with them.
Right.
And we'll do everything we can to make sure that we accomplish their goal.
How do these clients find you?
A lot of it is content, like email, newsletter. Newsletter is probably the biggest driver of inbound, but also
People forward it to people, and
yeah, exactly. So
It's edutainment also.
it's like reading a reality show is how I try to write it. Like I write it as if I'm just talking.
sure.
And
It's so not overproduced and accessible, I think, is the magic
Right.
of it. People in a world where everyone's trying to be like, I'm a thought leader. Here's all these bullet points and data and sources.
Yeah.
And you're just doing.
How has what you do changed over the last 3 years?
it's
And
well,
how
I
much
would
of what you
say
think about? Sorry to hijack.
Yeah,
but
please.
and how much of what you think about is a mixture of paid versus earned, earned versus owned?
so the biggest change has been just look, we cannot eat to the bottom line. We have to grow the bottom line versus just grow the top line. Even when I was at Hint, the goal was always, okay, we got to grow top line. Bottom line, for a beverage specifically, bottom line doesn't matter because as soon as you get acquired and they have their own trucks and shelf space, bottom line gets cut.
Yeah.
But everybody we work with now is basically, our metric went from ROAS to PROAS, profitable ROAS. So instead of looking at every dollar we spend and every dollar we make, we look at every dollar we spend and what's the net contribution margin of the dollar we made. That's probably the biggest difference, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar to real estate, I think 2020 and 2021 were probably the biggest years of transaction in retail, e-commerce, direct to consumer, and then everybody overordered and filled up their 3PLs and
everyone went back to work.
yeah. And then last year everybody went back to work.
Too.
Yeah.
I think the levels went down right to where it was in 2019.
Sure.
And is slowly going up. The businesses, though, that were very disciplined from the beginning, the ones who said, all right, we're not going to go raise a crazy amount of money. We're going to be super anal about profitability.
Yeah.
We're going to watch every single dollar. Those businesses have continued to grow quarter over quarter and not have any impact. But the ones that did fundraise a bunch and blew a ton of money or, they just did crazy stuff, they were the ones that had to take a hard reset.
What's your most fun launch you've done to date?
Oh,
I'm just very
Feastables.
interested in what he does.
That's why you guys are together.
I'd say Feastables was a huge one for that exact reason. It was crazy to see the world's reaction to that. A lot of times it's our team and our client or our client and some press, but this was the world's reaction to a brand that we launched, which was really cool. In addition to, it's like you just get to that, you get to a different level in terms of like the people you work with. And, instead of working with, for example, just our solutions engineer at Shopify to watch the launch, we're working directly with Harley to make sure that, his team is on the launch and making sure nothing breaks. But
Shopify.
Yeah. But it's, I'd say that was a lot of fun. The other one that was a lot of fun is a showerhead brand called Jolie, which is basically a filtered.
We have Jolie showerheads in our building in Lower Manhattan. The
Let's
building's
go.
called Jolie.
Amazing.
Oh.
And so we did like a piece of content where like in my full suit, I got into the shower.
Oh,
under
that's
the
amazing.
Jolie head. And
Yeah, so that one was a lot of fun just because, did you ever see the marketing for it, like the water report?
probably.
Did you ever see that?
I have seen it.
Yeah, so it's basically like you put your zip code, your email, your phone number, and they will run your zip code through the EPA's API,
Oh, God.
grab all the toxins that are in your local water,
Oh, God.
send you an email with a report, and then say...
Like 23andMe for your water.
Exactly.
It's like, wait, I didn't know I was so
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, well, do you want to buy it now? And so, but yeah,
genius.
those two were probably the most fun launches.
Over 7,000 customers like Pet Lab, Chamberlain Coffee, Hero Cosmetics, Spikeball, Dossier, TB12, Pit Viper, 100 Thieves. Tens of millions of packages shipped every year. 50 plus fulfillment centers across the US, Canada, UK, Europe, and Australia. An app store with 50 plus integrations like Shopify, Amazon, NetSuite, and many more. Managed inventory distribution, D2C and B2B fulfillment capabilities, 99.96% of orders shipping on time, 99.95% order accuracy rate. Yep, we're talking about ShipBob again. We know picking a fulfillment partner or 3PL is not easy. And equally importantly, we know you never want to have to move or pick another one. That's why we partnered with ShipBob. From 0 to 100 million in sales, ShipBob has you covered. So, I think we talked a lot about content and different strategies. Edutainment is one of them, that bridge between education and entertainment. Ryan, I wanted to ask you a few questions about, like, what do you think we're moving towards from, like, a macro perspective in the future of education?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. I think the bachelor degree goes away. Like, you're starting to see schools close down now.
Right.
Right? Like, it's just too expensive to run, let alone expensive to go to. And I think most people are no longer seeing the benefit in higher education unless you are incredibly specific with what you want to do in the future.
You probably
And
don't
most
know
people
at
just
that
don't
age.
know, right?
Yeah.
Most, like, to go and get a liberal arts degree in English literature, like I'm glad I went and did that because I needed those 4 years to make me an adult. But had I needed student loans, like, fuck my life.
Totally.
Like, there's other ways to grow up.
Yeah.
And now, like, people talk about it all the time, but it's like, okay, is this generation that we're dealing with now, the younger generation, are they lazy or do they just have more options? And I see it all the time. We hire young employees all the time and they're working and it's like, hey, this is what the comp is, this is how we can pay you. But then they can make more money creating content and selling it back to brands for like $2,000 a pop.
Right.
And they can just crank it out and they don't have to work on my schedule or listen to me or do anything I want to do. And so I think the bachelor degree goes away. I know that in the United States, by 2027, 50% of the workforce will consider themselves in some way, shape, or form part of the gig economy, which means they're all going to be selling something.
Right.
And so for us, we first got into education because people would watch $1 Million Listing around the world, and then they would email me about how the way we were doing deals helped them sell a car or sell advertising or sell a client on their orthodontic services, like the most random stuff. And we're like,
Right.
What is this? I guess the way I sell could be applied to selling anything to anyone, anywhere,
Totally.
on any device. So let's write a book. And so I put like my agent, I called it like my agent manual that was like this thick, and I just made it much thicker and called it Sell It Like Serhant, and then turned that into the TV show for Bravo. And then from there, we turned it into an online educational platform. So not just a course. Like, I never wanted to do a reality TV guy course, but like a real place where salespeople of all industries could come together and learn how to sell better. And what's wild about it is that, like, yes, we have a lot of real estate agents on there. It's like 15,000, I guess, in 110 countries now.
Wow.
And so we've had to build a big staff to support it and grow it and grow it. But it's also all the other people who sell, who've come to us, like, and we ask them every time they come in, why are you here?
Right.
You know what? Like, I'm the real estate guy. And they're like, oh, sorry, where else do I go? Like, to do what? Like, to learn how to sell. And I sell shirts on Etsy.
Right.
Is there a place you can tell me, I've watched one video on YouTube, but there's nothing there, and you have a platform, you have a membership, you have brand strategy, you have mentorship. Like, I need to invest into myself to grow because I need to sell, and like, I can't learn this at school anywhere. And we're like, okay. And then we've just been building ever since. And it's, you know, you think about like pro athletes, you know, like a quarterback will have 5 coaches. You know, one for each arm. You know, they've got the cardio coach, the strength coach, the game coach, the quarterback coach, more than 5, right? It's nonstop. And they spend 90% of their year practicing and 10% of the year in the game, right? You know, and salespeople spend 99% of their year in the game, 1% of the year practicing, but only because they have to for their license.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and if you just shift that even just a little bit, you can make a massive difference in someone's income. And so I get major benefit from watching people like grow their careers and make more money and get that car they've always wanted and go and get that 2-bedroom they've always wanted and get the house, you know, they go on vacation and not be stressed out about money. Like, that's, I think, pretty awesome. And we want to eventually be the place to go to learn how to sell anything to anyone.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Ryan, because, you know, I went to school, I studied like finance, computer science, Chinese, all things on paper that were like,
oh, that's what you do now, right?
Exactly. And to your point, it actually, I think, set me down the wrong path for a long time, because now I'm in sales and marketing. I love it. It's always been in my blood. Like, what was I doing behind a computer for so long, writing code, talking to no one, an industry that rewarded just like brute force misery. And I just, like, you know, I was in the bottom quartile of that. And then I think the issue that's always been with standard academia is, yes, it's too theoretical, not application-based enough, but also they don't teach you sales. And so, like, right now, for example, I'm trying to hire salespeople. You're always hiring salespeople. It's the hardest thing for me because anyone who's super talented, been in the industry for 20 years now, they're at a price point where it's just inaccessible. Anyone who's young is like, oh, I don't know if I'm good at sales. I don't know if I want to do sales. So I do think there's a massive market opportunity by tapping into that skill base.
One of the things that I've also been trying to do, and $1 Million Listing definitely helped with this, is like make sales cool.
Right.
Like, being in sales, I think for the long, like, if you told me when I was a little kid,
like slimy.
Yeah, sales is slimy, sales is terrible, car salesman, all this. But what you realize is, like, okay, so, you know, you talk about Mr. Beast,
right?
Content creator, right? You do Feastables for him, makes chocolate, but what they're really in is in chocolate sales.
Right.
Right. So how do you survive? Well, we have to sell the software. So I'm like, so you're not in software, you're really in software sales.
Right.
And you have to make good software, but everyone is in. And so we've now started to do more to like B2B, which I never thought we would ever do, to like major corporations who come to us now. And I'm like, so because they are, in terms of their training, they are so product specialized, right? Instead of sales specialized. So they really know how to train their sales staff on selling that product, but they don't actually focus on helping the staff sell. And then they end up letting go of lower performing salespeople, and then it's a 6-month ramp up process for the next person. So we come in and we're actually not really a cost, we're more of a savings. Like,
totally.
Look how much money you're gonna spend over the next 18 months on replacing poor salespeople. If you could just invest into them to be better salespeople, your product is great, it sells itself.
Well, now that you have this, you can get a lower salesperson in the door, run them through your course or your program, and then now they're at your standard.
Oh yeah.
Like, instead of hiring a rock star, can you build a, can you
yeah,
mold a rock
listen,
star?
Is sales for everybody? No. Like, if you don't like talking, it's gonna be hard.
Right.
Right? But you don't have to have some effervescent like personality to be good in sales, right? You have to find the one thing that's authentic to you, really start to amplify it, learn the strategies, learn the techniques, understand strong follow-up, understand how to be a professional. And if you want to do it, sales takes a significant amount of get up and go. It takes a lot of initiative. And that's the hardest thing to train anybody with. If you don't want to get up and go, sales is probably not for you.
It's a lot of the saying yes.
Resilience too. I mean, you gotta just be able to be like, all right, didn't go, just get the fuck back in the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, can you quickly just talk us through like what going through a program is? And
so, like, Serhant is both asynchronous and cohort. So asynchronous is you have digital content, you have webinars, you have you have coaching, everything. You can do it on your own whenever you want. Okay, and then you have cohort based, which is where you do it live.
Right.
There's a lot of people that will never do it on their own, right? They have to do it live. So we have that too. And then for businesses, they come to us and we run sales assessments on their salespeople. So we start with a baseline assessment of this is where your salespeople are, this is what they're good at, this is what they're bad at, this is what you actually need to do better, boss, because you might say you're great, but 9 out of 10 of your sales team says you're not, and maybe they just have never told you. This is where we're going to help them improve. And we have there's a whole series of different levers, right? And then we run them through that program and then reassess. And if they're better and if it's in line with greater gross revenue, and there's a lot of market factors, like,
of course,
the market can't be tanking and we're helping people get up, but we're also hopefully maybe keeping people more motivational. What we find they like the absolute most is we give, especially sales teams at larger companies, a great sense of community, which I know you guys talk about a lot on this podcast, within the sales organization, in as much as it relates to outside sales organizations. Like the sales teams at IBM don't usually talk to the sales teams who sell Bloomberg terminals, who don't usually talk to 15,000 real estate agents, but now they can share ideas and share different ways. So if you think about like fitness communities, like the guy that runs, the girl that bikes, and the person who just does strength training, all kind of are there for the same goal, but in different ways. And now they can collaborate and do different things and look at each other and follow along. And it makes for like a much better environment for what is typically a relatively lonely business.
All right, Nick, I want to turn it back over to you here. So you're the DTC guy. I think what's been really interesting from where, I run a B2B business. It's mostly in the consumer space. And probably talked about 450 brands in the past, 6 or so months. And there's been like a clear recalibration, and obviously part of that's macro and capital markets tightening up, venture money not flowing as much as they used to. But some people are sort of looking at like the Allbirds and Warby Parkers and thinking that direct-to-consumer is dying as a channel. So I sort of wanted to just get your reaction as a D2C guy of like, what do you think's happening in D2C right now?
So just like real estate, I don't think it's dying. I think it's just that, when you have a cookware set that's triple the price of what you can get on Amazon, your luxuries get cut out. I think also a lot of people somehow didn't realize this earlier, but direct-to-consumer is just a channel. It's just another way to sell. It's the ability to sell directly to your consumer without having Target in the middle. But, I've always viewed direct-to-consumer as like the best way to set up testing of like what works and what doesn't. You can in 6 hours know how to sell tequila in San Diego versus NorCal versus Austin versus Boston, and then you can take those learnings and apply that locally, on the store or in sampling. And so direct to consumer really is, one, it's a sales channel, and the second is that it's the fastest way to understand and get learnings. If you were to launch a brand and sell pillows and go try to sell them and understand if your pillow is a good product or if you're messaging it the right way or if the way you describe it on the packaging is the right way to say it, it would take you a year to do that in retail. But on with a direct-to-consumer sales channel, you can spin up a landing page in a couple hours, and then you can iterate on that landing page, and you can use technology to look at user recordings on that page, and you can see where somebody's stopping and reading and what's somebody highlighting and
we did a lot
which
of eye
one
tracking
is
studies and stuff when I wrote
and so,
software.
Yeah, and so that's where I think direct-to-consumer really has the edge. For a ton of brands, it's a huge sales channel. For a lot of brands now, it's just a testing ground. It's the means to understand what works, especially in things where you don't have a normal consumer buying behavior online, beverage and alcohol and skincare products. It's really a testing ground to learn what works, how to talk about it to different types of people and solve different problems. And a lot of times too, like we were just talking about before this, it's very easy to build the product now, right? The product side only gets easier. And so figuring out your angles of how you're going to sell it is what you could do, leveraging the platform of direct-to-consumer. So I don't think it's dying. I think it'll be back pretty soon. It's already on the up and up. Like I mentioned earlier, the brands that are really religious about their numbers and their bottom line and not overspending, they're only seeing growth. And so I think it'll be back.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good perspective. I mean, we have, what was it, Dollar Shave Club or Harry's, where they literally just made a landing page. They didn't have a product. They didn't even make the product yet. They made a landing page and sent paid ads. Were able to learn a ton about their consumer before they even launched, and that allowed them to iterate before they made all those investments on getting on shelf and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Ryan, you have real estate content creation. Sharma, you have content consulting and investment. Together they form this very great flywheel where they all sort of feed off each other. I'm curious how you think about them differently, how you analyze them, what objectives you have for each of them.
Every business we have has 3 main goals for the year. Then underneath those main goals, then we have sub goals, right? Which then break into our kind of our main OKRs and then our quarterly KPIs. So we can just track. And honestly, they're best used so that no one forgets anything. Because throughout the year, a lot of what you do ends up, no matter how you say you run your business, you're putting out fires all the time.
Right.
You have employee fires, then someone quits, and you're hiring someone. Now you got to do this, and then this happens, and then a bank or 7 fall, and the market goes upside down, and then you're trying to deal with that, and wait, is revenue not where we thought? And then you're like, shit, what was our main goal? I totally forgot.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for brokerage, as an example, we have our main 3 goals that everyone stays on top of. They stay focused. Are a gross revenue goal, total agent count goal, and markets open goal. Everything else then follows underneath those goals. And the same thing for education, and the same thing for studios. And that's how we keep the train moving and stay goal oriented and moving forward. We even have PR goals, like press goals. It's important for us to consistently be out there in an earned way, and not in a way that we're pulling in the messaging instead of just pushing out our message everywhere. And the one that I like the most, I love them all, for different ways. They're all my 3 kids.
Right.
Brokerage is my first kid.
Yeah, right.
That's where we started. And he's good. My middle kid is content, because we went there next, and so they're the middle child, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Some days you love them, some days you're like, fucking, did we have to have the
sure
middle
you're
one?
mine?
Yeah, exactly. Really, because content's all over the place. And then the baby, the one you love, because you're
Right.
oh, you're our baby, is
Ew.
education. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It's education, because we really got into that business, honestly, in August 2019, and then we thought we were toast when COVID happened, and then it was the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Nick, what about you? You got HOOX, you got Charm Brands, you got 1180. How do you think about them? Is there clear centralization? Is there decentralization that needs to happen in those respective categories?
Well, so the way I think of it is we have the service businesses, which is those 3. They're all focused on different pieces of a brand's journey. We've got the content.
And quickly plug them for people who don't know.
Sure. So Sharma Brands is high touch consulting. Think the red carpet approach for brands between 25 and 300 million in revenue.
Yep.
1180 is a branded content studio. So if you ever see, ads that don't look like ads in your feed, that's us. And then the third one is HOOX. HOOX, we make landing pages for real estate agents, for B2B companies, SaaS companies, brands, freelancers, content creators, etc. And so those are sort of the consulting arms or the service businesses. Then the second piece to that is content, and the third one is investing. And so the way I think of it is, I create content, this brings us clients. We create good work with clients, this creates more content for me. The more content that goes out, the more, new founders find me. So Sanzo or Amsam or, half the list of this podcast, they'll find me before launch, and I'll get the opportunity to invest and be a part of these brands, and then use the service business as well to help them grow as they launch and scale.
Yeah.
But I think they're all fun in different ways. The Sharma Brands and the service businesses are fun because we're working on things that end up in people's hands, and you see emotions with products in hands, and you get texts from people and whatnot. The content is fun because you get somebody telling you, this newsletter saved my business from going under, and now we're profitable, or
Right.
We use this playbook to launch, and we just raised $100 million from Andreessen. And then, of course, the investing is fun because, I don't think there's anything more fun than seeing something at ground level and build it up to, something where it's doing tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, guys, you're both really, well-accomplished individuals. The question I think I have for you is, what are you most proud of as you sort of look backwards?
What am I the most proud of? Other than my daughter? Actually, I don't know if I'm proud of her. She was gonna come. You know what I mean? Whatever.
Right. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, kind of. What am I the most proud of I don't know. I'm super proud of our team. That's a boring answer.
That was mine too.
Yeah, like the team. But I am. Here's a weird moment. This might sound shallow, but I guess I don't care. Our headquarters is in Soho, right? We have an entire building. It was Tommy Hilfiger's flagship store in Soho. Talk about the repurposing of big box retail when people don't go to the third floor to buy jeans anymore. And so we have this whole building. It's like Serhant everywhere. It's on the corner of Broadway, West Broadway and Broome, right? And so, when we started the company, like I was everything. Like I was doing all the deals, doing all the work, keeping the business afloat. I just taken this whole freaking building in the center of Soho like a lunatic. And I've had a car and a driver for 12 years because it's my office. That's where I work in the back. Yeah, it's like how I buy my time back. When I first got the car and driver, I couldn't afford it at all, and I was like, who the hell do I think I am? And now I can't survive without it. There's a fire hydrant right in front of our office, and I can always pull up really, really easily, because no one ever parks there.
Right.
And a couple months ago, it's right after our 2-year anniversary. Like we'd gotten to 250 agents. It was great, and we're coming down West Broadway. And there's all these damn cars parked in front of the building. And I'm like, god damn it. And I get out and I see that there's drivers sitting in all of them inside of these cool Mercedes and this guy's Land Rover. And then I realize, oh my God, these are my agent's drivers.
Wow, that's crazy.
And they're upstairs right now working. And I'm like, we've fostered an environment where we've taken young people. The average age of a real estate agent in the United States is 55 and she's white, right? Our average agent is 27. We've been able to take young people from totally different walks of life and give them the ability to come and make a lifestyle for themselves that they never thought was possible. Yeah. And that was a moment where I was like, 1, dicks in my spot, right? 2, okay, this is pretty cool.
That's such a cool story because I think essentially what you've imparted on them is the value of time and how to fight and win it back.
Yeah, you try to lead by example.
Right.
Not that I hope that's not my only example. But if they're at a point, I don't pay for that stuff.
Right.
If they're at a point where they're doing well enough, learning the way that we've taught them, and then reinvesting back into themselves to grow and to do even more, then that's a massive win for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nicholas.
Thomas.
What do you got?
So initially I was thinking culture, team culture. But if we get a bit more surface level here, I would say probably the logos we've worked with. They're companies that I dreamed of or used as a kid. That was really cool. It's just every time working with a brand where it's or even in this case sitting in a room where I'm next to Ryan.
Right.
And I used to watch Ryan on YouTube a long time ago. But I think I would say, the social proof board, the logos we've worked with, the office address that we have in New York City.
It's amazing.
That to me is pretty
how
cool.
Old?
26.
It's a lot of fucking life in just a few years, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Just wait till your hair looks like mine.
I'm starting. You see this right here? I got one.
You won.
And I got one more down here.
Wow.
I know.
I started going gray when I was 16 years old.
Yeah, that was in our research notes that Nick's assistant made.
Yeah, I had a researcher pull
really?
4 pages on you.
Nice.
What else? You want to see what else we got?
Yeah.
We got the stat of 84% of real estate agents.
Ryan says the most
year
important
one.
skill for real estate is improv and theater. It gives you quick thinking on your feet and forces you to listen in theater because you memorize.
Perfect.
In 2018, there were 80,000 real estate agents in New York. 84% of them quit their job in the first year. We got a whole gang of that.
Great.
All right, ready? We sold $6 million our first year and did $80 million in sales last year. That's what the COO of Adventure Challenge, a longtime customer of ShipBob's, shared with ShipBob the other day. The pace of growth for Adventure Challenge has been insane, but it wasn't all positive. It started with a failed crowdfunding project. Then investors assured them that their business would fail. They raised $0 in outside capital. And it somehow only took a few years to hit $80 million in sales. They started off fulfilling all orders themselves. They'd have U-Hauls packed with thousands of products, making endless trips from their storage unit to the post office. It was not scalable. It was definitely hurting their growth. It definitely wasn't fun. That's when ShipBob started their partnership with Adventure Challenge. By being able to focus on growing the business and product development, sales took off like a rocket ship. While Adventure Challenge initially focused on D2C sales, their popularity started driving other conversations. They started to stock several hundred smaller boutiques across the country, then Francesca's, then Kohl's. And while they're based in California and most of their customers are in the US, the word of mouth and viral videos on TikTok and Instagram started driving demand around the world. So then they started filling orders out of Canada, and then the UK, and now Australia. From a failed Kickstarter and getting $0 in outside investment on day one to over $80 million in revenue, Adventure Challenge has defied the odds and built a global powerhouse brand alongside their partnership with ShipBob, who's there to help you completely unlock your brand's growth. Read the entire story at shipbob.com/adventure-challenge. Stop 4, it's a game called the Hot Box. It's a sort of a riff on the hot seat.
Is it because we're in a box and the sun's on us right now in New York City?
Really hot.
There you go. Yeah. So the joke was the first 2 episodes, everyone's like, it should be called the Cold Box. It's freezing in here. And now the sun's finally out. But essentially, I'm going to ask you guys like a this or that question. The goal is that you answer it sort of without thinking as quickly as you can. So you guys ready?
Yep.
All right,
Wait,
we'll do Brian
Ryan
first,
first.
next second.
All right.
Ready?
Sure.
Cold plunge or hot tub?
Hot tub.
Hot tub.
Beach house or ski house?
Beach house.
Beach house.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Sunset.
Neat or messy?
Neat.
Neat.
Corgi or golden retriever?
We say a corgi?
Corgi.
Golden retriever.
Also golden retriever.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Summer.
Tennis or golf?
Golf.
Tennis.
Pineapple pizza or candy corn?
Candy corn.
Pineapple pizza.
Live music or DJ?
Live music.
DJ.
Live in space or underwater?
In space.
In space.
Fight 1 horse-sized duck or 1,000 duck-sized horses?
1 horse-sized duck.
Also 1 horse-sized duck.
Sweet snacks, salty snacks?
Sweet snacks.
Salty snacks.
Call, text, or audio notes?
Text.
Text.
Dude, don't the people that audio note.
I haven't converted yet.
What's your time restriction? 'Cause mine's like, if it's over 10 seconds, it's never getting listened to.
Yeah, no, I literally write back. And I'm like, hey, thanks so much. Please text me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not on your time. I have to listen to you now.
Reading or writing?
Writing.
Writing.
Work remote or on-site?
On-site.
On-site.
Laundry or dishes?
Neither.
Yeah, dishes.
Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok?
TikTok.
Twitter, TikTok.
Dancing or people watching?
People watching.
People watching.
Cocktails or beers?
Cocktails.
Water.
Feel too hot or too cold?
Too cold.
Also too cold.
Give up bread for life or cheese for life?
Cheese.
Cheese.
Air guitar or air drums?
Air drums.
Air drums.
Board games or video games?
Video games.
Board games.
Start early or leave late?
Start early.
Leave late.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Non-fiction.
Trucks or billboards?
Both at the same time.
There
So
you
much to make
go.
a company
How
that
about
does that.
billboards on trucks?
There you go. I'll
Oh!
take that. All right, good news first or bad news first?
Bad news.
Bad news.
All right, bad news is the show's over. We're at our final stop.
Oh, man.
So guys, honestly, thank you for joining me. This was a lot
What's
of
the
fun.
good news?
Yeah, it's a really cool intersection of 2 different lanes with people at the top of their game in their respective lanes. So it's been awesome. Want to give you guys a quick chance to tell the audience where they can learn more about you, plug some of the things you're working on. So Nick, why don't you go first?
Yeah, easiest is come find me on Twitter, Mr. Sharma on Twitter, or you can pay my bills and sign up for my newsletter. It's completely free to you, but just Google Nick email, N-I-K email, you'll find it.
Cool.
Everywhere at Ryan Serhant.
There you go.
And Serhant. Yep.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining me on Driving Performance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap.
We lived.
We did.
And no seatbelts. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.